They say kids are graduating, but the kids can't read. How are they graduating? This does not make any sense. All right. This video is from Janae Daniel. Channel's absolutely blowing up. I'll definitely leave the link below. But let's go ahead and look into see why this video is so viral right now. Let's go ahead and take a look. I can't imagine kids graduate and they can't read. Like, I know some of the curriculum is not the same as it was back in the day. There's some curriculums that are not even teaching cursive writing anymore. Like, a lot is different now. Okay, but let's go ahead and jump into it.
I teach 7th grade. They are still performing on the 4th grade level.
When I tell you that these babies cannot read, they cannot write, and they cannot comprehend, I'm not being funny.
You know the thing kids go to school to do, like learn the fundamental skills used to go through everyday life? Yeah, that's not clicking anymore.
Vast majority of students that I teach in my class do not know how to read, write, comprehend, critical think. They just cannot.
And okay, it's easy to chop it up to the pandemic, maybe them damn phones, maybe the kids who never learned the basics were the first ones to multiply.
Everyone's always saying, oh, the kids are lost. Like, the kids don't know how to read, they don't know how to write, they're so disrespectful, they have no social skills.
They don't!
Bad kids times 1,000, like, it's so bad, it's so awful. Yeah, because the hot Cheeto girls became parents first.
Regardless of the cause, the clock
That's shots fired.
From kids to teens, almost young adults, they keep hitting more milestones. They keep absorbing content and trends meant for people twice their age, but their development isn't keeping up.
She wore a sahalit of clothes that were extraordinary, whatever, bro.
She wore a, oh baby, she wore a silhouette of clothes that were,
I don't know that word. I don't even know how to.
Extraordinary. Oh my God, we gotta go back. She wore a silhouette of clothes that were extra or extraordinary. Some people say extraordinary. That they are struggling on. The silhouette takes so many people out, but these students look like they're in high school. It does not, you know, it's just a little bit of a shock.
she wore a silhouette of clothes that were,
I don't know that word. I don't even know how to read. I don't know why.
I'm sure you've all seen the videos and the TikToks. Gen Alpha can't read, they don't play outside, brain rot, iPad kid. It's a conversation that's spiraling all over the internet. But in this video, we need to talk about the root cause of the crisis that no one else is discussing, and also how these kids were basically set up to fail from the jump. The current classroom situation and shakes their head, most likely because they remember when the entire system was built to prepare kids for the heavy responsibility of the world.
Bulwark of the American form of government is education. For true democracy can exist only among a people prepared from childhood for the responsibilities of citizenship.
Back in the day, these students were learning, but it went way past your basic math, okay? Sure, they learned how to read, right alongside learning how to manage a household and handle hands-on trades.
The two older children go to an LCC primary school. They learn not only from books, they also learn how to become good citizens able to earn their living. Girls, for instance, enjoy domestic science. Boys...
You're not lying, dude. Like, even still to this day, like, they don't do it no more. But when I went to high school, man, the girls were always in home ec. You probably had a few dudes that just had to take it. But we also had a mechanics trade school, like, in the back, you know, and where they went to go learn how to do oil changes, change brakes, things like that. I bet those sort of programs and classes, again, the curriculums are just so different now. Those don't even exist. Trying to prepare you for actual adulthood.
Metalwork and so on.
Look, we all know schools back then were a lot more stricter than schools today. I'm pretty
Get the
sure your
ruler.
grandparents have told you they used to beat us with rulers back in the day. And they weren't lying. The entire classroom was ran on a strict program and pure fear.
And the schools could be pretty strict. Students would sit politely on wooden benches for fear of caning.
Come up here this instant, you little upstart. I'll show you who's teaching this class.
Now, with me showing you all of those clips, I'm not saying we need to go back to the 1950s. For obvious reasons. I'm also not trying to prove that kids back in the day were any better than kids today. I really just want to show you how much the bar for academics, discipline, and just the expectations for a child to keep up in general has been lowered. The old school system used to operate on something way bigger than the standard things you'd expect children to learn. They taught them the huge responsibility of handling themselves, meaning they were forcing them to look at their own actions, fix, and then learn from then on.
Hank, I can teach you how to punctuate and spell and how to write themes, but more important, you must learn to face responsibility. While you're a student at Lincoln High, it's your job to know what the lesson is, how it's to be done, and when it's expected.
Accountability. Accountability across the board for these young people. Nope. Teachers right now, we just did a video on why so many teachers are giving up teaching right now, because it's redirection all day long. They feel like they're babysitters. They feel like they do not have power. They cannot discipline. Detention is not even a thing anymore. They just, like I said, they just feel like, man, they might actually teach for 1 hour out the entire day, but the rest of the day is redirecting. And also, the students do not care. The students do not care about their own education. Why? Because the parents aren't pushing for said education. And it's crazy because the percentages is growing year after year, from where it's going from like an 8% failure rate. Now it's in the double digits. Like, this is not good for this new generation at all.
I can't make you responsible. That you have to do for yourself. That's all, Hank. Thank you.
Like that teacher said, she can teach her kids how to read, write, and punctuate, but the real magic had to do with them building the habits, the discipline, and the focus that allowed them to even succeed academically in the first place.
But when we go to the library, we are very quiet, because we know it's the room where we read to ourselves. And you know, we have found that knowing when to be quiet is a part of growing up.
If we wanted to look at it how it looks, these kids were trained.
Stand up, young man. Are you a Negro, Travis?
No.
Are you a flunky, Travis?
No.
What are you?
I am black and beautiful.
And what else are you? Are you a boy?
No.
What are you?
Oh, man.
Think about it like the school day being an exercise for their mental endurance and a way to make sure that they were ready for that high standard already expected out of them. Of course, they were taught the basics, but they were also taught how to think critically, retain information, and just make sure their lives were organized.
Bert helped me draw up a homework schedule that lists my subjects, the assignments, when they were made, and when they're due. I'm also learning to schedule my time a little better. So before starting any assignment, I read through and check my notes as carefully as possible. I'm finding out that the better I understand an assignment, the better I can do it.
You know what's crazy? I was talking to a teacher the other day. They have a new curriculum that they're rolling out, and it's more of social skills, where they're introducing more intimate session of learning, like, meaning like, hey, instead of sitting at a desk, guess what? We're going to give you a group project. Y'all all, and these are just like 2, 3, or second and third graders, really just going around, maybe even first graders, where they're just going around sitting in these little small pockets, these little small groups, and they're learning how to do math, or they're reading, they're trying to learn subjects alongside with garnering social skills. And it's such a breakup to me when I saw it, like, checking my child out of school one time, and I'm like, I'm so used to them all sitting at a desk, we all standing attention, teachers teaching, man, people are raising their hands, everybody's focused, listening in. You get yelled at if you're playing on your phone or doing something crazy, right? But these kids are sitting there focused on themselves, and they're probably, we don't know, like, having side conversation. They're trying to generate these critical thinking skills in those social environments now. And it's something that I'm just not used to. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it was a bad thing, because my child did graduate with honors. I'm fortunate, proud parent. But they've always been social butterflies. But what happens if it's a kid that doesn't really like to interact with other kids? Do they fail,
Kids were learning time management and how to structure their responsibilities without anyone having to hold their hand. With this foundation set and being in an environment that required that strict mental discipline, the students had no other option but to lock in. A noisy classroom may be annoying today, but back in the day, it was honestly viewed as a complete failure to the learning environment.
Speed is the moat today. You gotta be nimble, gotta be quick.
Accounting has to be right. Reliability, accuracy.
It looks as if everyone is busy at work, but it's so noisy. Sometimes children drop things on the floor. They call across the room and talk out loud. You couldn't learn very much here, and you couldn't be proud to be part of such a noisy room, could you?
They were expected to sit completely still and be mentally engaged for hours. They went out of their way to stay on top of their workload and didn't miss a single note. And if they did, they went straight to the source to get it right.
Miss Jackson, I'm sorry, but I didn't get the complete assignment for tomorrow. There was so much noise in the hall.
I know, and I'm sorry. It's chapters 9 and 10. Read them and be ready to discuss them tomorrow.
Chapters 9 and 10. Read and be ready to recite in class, as we have been doing. Is that it?
That's it. And I promise not to wait until the end of the period to make the assignment next time.
Thank you.
When you think about it, school was looked at as the first place that set you up to be a functioning citizen of the world. Society expected these young people to transition into adulthood immediately after graduation.
That also, when she said that, reminded me that we used to learn how to write checks. Don't get me wrong, we learned how to write a check, even though checks are pretty much obsolete these days. Like, you don't even see those. But we were able to write a letter in the mail. Do you think the new generation is learning how to properly write postage? How to write an address to and from? Like, let's just be real. Can they even do that? If they had to somehow deal with the check, do you think they would be able to handle that? That's the real question. They really taught us how to get that transition into adulthood going. Yeah, love school back in the day. I don't know what's going on now.
You got the diploma, the baby was already on the way. You threw the graduation cap off your head and they were ready to throw you into the war next. A lot of these students were planning on going straight to college, potentially starting a family or going to war. But the first place they had to stop was school.
Yes, high school first. You need it for life in service and afterwards. You need the courses: algebra, civics, English, history, and all the rest. You need the activities and all the other things that go on around here. Things that help prepare you for life.
Now, if you're looking at these perfectly polished students and you're thinking this is way too good to be true, you're valid. Kids will always be kids, okay? From 1942 to 2022, they're all the same. And no matter how much you try to mold them into a little adult, that urge to act up, lose focus, be distracted, test boundaries, on and on, that will always be in their blood.
For sure.
What's this? What kind of behavior do you call this? Wait a minute, you stay where you are. This is the kind of behavior I might have expected of you. All I do is leave the room for a few minutes, and what do I find? Confusion, disorder. And you, what were you doing?
I was just going...
Going to what? Throw the eraser, I suppose. It's a good thing I caught you. I'll make an example out of you.
But
That's enough out of you. Leave this room and report to the principal's office immediately.
Schools already understood that children will naturally be children, but they also believed that natural children impulses weren't an excuse for bad behavior or poor performance. And even the students knew the expectations and the rules clearly, but staying focused obviously didn't come as natural to all.
In class, for example, I know the rules. One is that to get the most out of a subject, you must follow the classwork. But I've gotten into the habit of letting my mind wander to other things.
Either way.
Let me ask you something. Do you think, the breakdown was getting to where we're at these days and age versus then is that everybody is the winner concept? Because if you also thought about critical and independent thinking skills in the classroom and you taught that and you taught like healthy competition. I remember when I was in elementary school, man, we were going to get Cheez-Its and snacks, and I had to use chalk on a dry erase board and write out and, solve a math equation on the board versus someone else. The first one to finish wins, gets extra snacks. Like those healthy competitions, man, I don't really see that anymore. And the moment where we started to adopt this, everybody is a winner, everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets a ribbon. Do you think that watered down? You get what I'm saying? The want to, succeed over your peers, to do one over, do your big one, just do a little extra. I just feel like because they get rewarded for low effort still, they still have some sort of partial recognition for low effort. think about it. If you made it this far in this video, I would love to know what your thoughts on that question.
The students couldn't let those distractions start affecting them academically, because that's when the pressure that not a lot of modern kids today have to worry about, might I add, starts kicking in. If you couldn't stay on track, couldn't keep up, or care to, you could be left behind, literally.
Most of you have no foundation at all. Now, the trouble's with your attitude. You don't pay enough attention in class. You don't do enough work outside of it. You don't know what the word study means. You haven't the slightest idea. Don't you realize that mathematics is an important subject? I tell you right now that unless you get over your lazy habits and come up to the standards I've set for this class, many of you will have the pleasure of repeating this course next semester.
Having to repeat a course or repeat a grade, that was the ultimate consequence.
Oh, yes,
the
indeed.
ultimate punishment, and something that filled a lot of kids with embarrassment. But I
Yes.
want to note this, okay? There is nothing wrong with letting a child know, hey, you don't understand this, so let's slow down and get you caught up. But were the teachers and that strict standards back in the day letting these kids down that easily? No. So instead of keeping that high bar and pushing students to reach it, the system would eventually decide it was much easier to just lower the bar altogether. But before we get into that, the reality of that old school strict standard started to show some cracks. They were forcing students into an environment of strict discipline and holding them up to a huge standard, which for some students, it turned out to be the best approach. But for other students, it had an opposite effect. So, traveling from the 40s, 50s, and 60s earlier mindset and getting a bit less vintage, people started realizing that not every student was thriving under that strict keep up or get left behind environment. And as a result, high school dropout rates across the country started increasing, and fast.
The dropout problem is a tremendous problem nationwide.
Does anyone have an idea as to why, Rebecca?
Well, there are many reasons that research points out that a reason why students are dropping out. One reason is because of low self-esteem, and because students are just not motivated like they should be, or like they used to be in the past.
For decades, if a student dropped out or they failed a grade, society just viewed it as a personal failure. They fell behind, they couldn't keep up, oh well, that's on them. If a child couldn't keep up academically, the system often just kept moving without them.
The pattern these students would take in these schools was very routine, very predictable, very efficient, like a factory. So the basic story is they would come into high school, many multiple years behind grade level, many of them would fail their courses. The school system would say, well, try again under the same circumstances. They might do a short time in alternative school and then drop out. And to us, that seemed very routine, very factory-like.
And eventually, more and more students started mentally checking out of the education system entirely. But by the 1980s, the government realized this individual problem was turning into a national one. They created a report that made it clear that the individual problem of a student failing has now turned into a national one that was threatening the country's future.
The Nation at Risk report really caused all of us to take a hard look in the mirror and understand how much work we had to do with our students. And it was really a clarion call for action.
This is back to the early 1980s, the early Reagan administration. The U.S. Secretary of Education at the time, Ted Bell, said, you know, we need to get a blue ribbon group together to take stock of how we're doing as a country in education. And by 1983, they had come up with this blockbuster of a report.
Let me put this into perspective for you, because this isn't just about students failing anymore. Economically, high school dropouts were earning way less than students with a diploma, and that doesn't make them a failure per se, except maybe in the eyes of the government. They were technically paying less in federal and income taxes because they were making less, meaning also they were much more likely to depend on government assistance programs. Billions of dollars were being lost, and the United States was actively falling behind more disciplined nations.
A Nation at Risk was a report that really was a wake-up call for our country.
A Nation at Risk called out the poor performance of American students. You know, A Nation at Risk was really using a sort of national competitiveness argument, really made the case that our underperformance in education was a threat to the nation.
You know, around this time that, you know, I'm thinking, you know, I'm looking at these photos, and as we progress through time, I'm thinking they went from strict, traditional, then you start getting to the 60s, the 70s, where you start introducing drugs, disco, you know, all these sort of the culture starts to change, right? It's free spirited, it's liberate, you know, it's everybody wants to go be themselves. The whole mentality changed. So I can assume that a piece of that thought and that culture had affected the, you know, obviously the classroom, right? They want to be free. They want to be free spirited. They want to go jump in their Camaro, ride down with the roof off, them and find a girl. And then some way, shape, or form, they made dropout or losers or the bad kid the popular kid in school. It wasn't the valedictorian or the nerd like they were shunned on, right? So it was almost like the culture outside movies, those sort of things, like music, kind of affected the way students started to behave mentally. I can definitely understand how this slowly started, and like think about that 70s going into your 80s, right? You starting to do like all the rock and roll stuff at this point, right? That really affected everybody. Everybody wanted to be a rock and roll star. You get what I'm saying? At that point, you didn't need a high school diploma. No one cared. You just wanted to be in a band. The drummer boys was getting all the girls. All right. Those sort of things. Like, it definitely had a little bit more, I feel like had a little bit more effect on the outside, with outside culture seeping its way into the classroom. But guys, I'm going to go ahead. I know you're probably mad at me. I'm going to end this video right here on part 1. And then we're going to come back and bounce back with a part 2. Don't forget to check out Janae's channel. I'll leave the link below. Phenomenal video. If you don't feel like waiting for me and my reaction, leave it down low. And I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you real soon.